And we are live here at the Break Room Arcade. Today it's just me, Logan, and up in the other part of here we have our beautiful Break Room Daddy, Brandon
It's me.
Manuel.
It's me. I know you didn't think I'd be here, but here I am in the flesh.
So, we have some beautiful news, and that is we have a direct coming in 2 days, which we knew it was coming soon. I don't think it should be surprising that it's the first day in November is the date of this.
November 1st.
Yeah, puts us a little over a month out from the release of Super Smash Bros. Ultimate.
Yeah, we're getting really close. Like we knew this was going to happen at any moment. The internet has just been destroying itself over, when that was going to happen. But we're
Right.
here. We're 2 days out. Well, a day and a half at this point, but still. We won't get into the leak too much, but I will preface this by saying that the leak has fueled a lot of debate on the internet over the last week. I think it's been a full week since that came out too, right?
Just about. I'm not sure. I don't think it's terribly significant at this point because I feel like any
We're gonna find out.
commentary, yeah, any commentary that could be had has just about been had. And now, since we're less than 2 days out, I think we're going to know whether the leak or not was actually real, considering we're getting 40 minutes of just Smash Bros. Content.
40 minutes, though. That is longer than the original 50 Fact Extravaganza and the other Smash 4 Direct, which was like 39 minutes and 55 seconds.
Right.
This is going to be the longest Smash Direct we've ever had. Longer than E3. That's crazy.
It's exciting. It's exciting that we're going to get sometimes I'll hear like a 40-minute direct and I'll be like, there's only so much they can pack in there. But since we're focusing exclusively on Smash Ultimate, like, did we think that we were going to get this much more content? And how much are they going to talk about, like, one thing? And how much are they going to talk about, like, how many things are they going to talk about? And obviously that's what we're going to be discussing tonight. And I have a lot of ideas of what we're going to hear about. I feel like this is going to be the last big blowout of information before launch. I feel like we're going to know everything after this, except for the stuff that I feel like they just won't mention at all, that we'll just have to play the game and find out. And that'll be smaller stuff. Like, obviously we're not going to know all the different trophies that are going to be in the game,
or if there will be trophies in the game,
or whether there be trophies in the game.
So we don't know yet.
I'd be surprised if we didn't get trophies in the game.
Me too.
But there's always the chance.
You never know. You honestly never know.
Right. So
some people are kind of glossing over the fact that they specifically announced this as the final Super Smash Bros. Ultimate Direct before launch. So this is it. I mean, we're going to know pretty much everything.
Right.
Like, there is a rumor that there are 2 Nintendo Directs happening this month. And that rumor came out like very, very early this morning on a website called Gaming Intel.
Okay.
They predicted the exact date and time for the Direct announcement, and then came out and said that they have heard from the same source that there will be an additional Direct this month. I would assume that is either a Pokemon Let's Go Direct or a generic Nintendo Direct.
I would feel like we'd get a Pokemon Let's Go Direct, considering that game is releasing at the end of the month? Near the end of
November
the month?
16th, middle of the month.
Oh, wow. So, like, we own a little over
2 weeks away, right?
Weeks. Yeah. That's pretty close.
So, like, the reason I bring that up is because if it is a generic Direct that's happening later this month, I wouldn't be surprised if Sakurai just held one character away. Just one.
Right.
To kind of finish that Direct off.
When was that predicted to be?
I think they said between the 5th and the 10th.
Okay.
So it would be very close to the date of this first Direct.
Right. Yeah, I think it would make sense that it was like specifically a Let's Go direct.
That's
They've
kind of where
done
I'm feeling.
Pokemon
Yeah.
directs in the past, and so I feel like that would be the most probable. I feel like they're not really going to talk about many other games past these two games that are coming out for the rest of the year. They're going to focus on this, and then maybe starting up in January, they're going to talk more about like 2019.
And we always have that like big January. Well, it's not always in January, but that big like first beginning of the year direct that kind of details the first 6 months.
Yeah.
We didn't get that until March, I think, this year. It was later than it's ever been. But like you said, I don't expect them to talk about anything outside of Smash and Pokemon until those games have both come to pass, because it doesn't make any sense for them to really detail anything out beyond that at this point.
Yeah.
Because I anticipate that their sales expectations for Smash and Pokemon are very high.
Yeah. It's funny, like not necessarily I mean, we'll get to the predictions here in a moment, but like I've been reading a lot of information has been coming out in terms of the Switch is at 22.86 million lifetime units sold. And it seems like it's doing pretty well, but then I also saw a article that was talking about how PlayStation is still crushing the Switch, which is understandable because that has an install base of like over 70 million at this point, I believe.
And we also just saw like some fairly large releases like Spider-Man. We had God
Yeah.
of War earlier this
But
year.
this particular article, I could see a lot of the points they were making, and I agreed with a lot of it. But then they were also talking about how, like, oh, there's only one big game left in the year, and they didn't even mention Pokemon Let's Go. They mentioned Ultimate, and they didn't mention Pokemon Let's Go. And I'm like, you don't
Hello?
think Pokemon Let's Go is going to move units? So I don't know if they were just ignorant of that fact or like how steady they were, but they were noting that the trends of the stock and stuff like that. And so they had support for their reasoning, but they also like missed some things that I think are pretty big factors when looking at the future of the Switch.
Totally. But let's go ahead and start moving on into our predictions for the Super Smash Bros. Ultimate Nintendo Direct that will be happening on Thursday. And of course, like the biggest thing that people always want to talk about is characters. But personally, I'm a little less interested in characters compared to everything else that this Direct has to detail. Like trophies we talked about, but spirits mode, if that actually
spirits
ends
mode
up in spirits,
is a big thing. We still don't know what it is.
the entirety of online is an unknown.
Right. I mean, we know we're gonna get characters, right? And that's probably why it's less interesting. But these are the other things that we still have questions about. We know we're getting more characters, and we also have some pretty good guesses as to what some of those characters might be.
And we'll get to the characters a little bit later, though.
Yeah.
Let's go ahead and start. Well, I guess maybe we will start with a character, not so much what the character is, but I anticipate that this Direct will open with a character reveal.
Okay.
Much like the previous Smash Direct did. Just
Right.
get right into a character reveal, because we're all under the impression that this Direct will feature several characters, much like the previous one did. I don't know if that'll be 5, like the August Direct, or if it'll be more, or if it'll be less, but I anticipate there will at least be more than one.
Okay. Well, I mean,
So
I would agree if you're doing a 40-minute Direct. I mean, I would say like it would be a safe bet to say we're at least seeing 2 characters.
Yeah, and I am of the impression that we will start with a character right at the beginning of the show.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Do you think that'll maybe transition, maybe play into how they reveal something next? Are they going to hold something like specifically? I'm really, really fascinated in what spirits could be. Because there's nothing that points towards us knowing anything about that mode. you know?
I wouldn't be surprised if the character reveal trailer that we get features elements from Spirits mode in it.
Right.
Say if there are boss battles involved, like we assume that there are. I wouldn't be surprised if we see some of those bosses in the character trailer, which is why I'm going to make my first character prediction of the night and say that the opening trailer will be for Monster Hunter and it's going to feature Rathalos.
I knew you were gonna say that. I was like, he's
It makes
gonna.
sense, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. Um, I feel like, and this may be partially because I'm inclined to believe the leak. And
Which we won't discuss in detail here.
right.
We'll you can defer to our other discussion for that.
Um, but I do want it, and the fact that Rathalos is in the game as a boss, as a stage boss, does, I think, push towards the idea that we could get a Monster Hunter rep.
And I mean, Sakurai likes teasing people, and obviously he showed us Rathalos as well as some kind of Monster Hunter stage, and to show that off without a character, leaves people wondering. Because that
Yes.
could mean one of two things. That could mean that Monster Hunter isn't in the game, so that's why he showed us that stuff. Or it means Monster Hunter is in the game and he showed us that stuff to tease us.
Yeah, I mean, I but I guess, I mean, are there good examples of stages from different franchises but no character reps in the game that aren't like something like the Miiverse stage, from Wii U?
You could say that, I guess, about this, but Electroplankton.
Oh,
That has Hanen which appeared in Brawl.
okay.
You could make a case for that, but I kind of see what you're saying. I mean, there's also like retro stages like Mario Brothers and 75M, which of course are tied to Mario Brothers and Donkey Kong, but at this point, I almost think Nintendo sees those as different entities.
Yeah.
Um, well, what about this? Like, remember Smash 4's initial reveal trailer? There was a part where Mario and Bowser are fighting on the boxing ring stage, which had its Super Smash Brothers design and not its Punch Out design at the time. And they didn't reveal Little Mac for like 8 months after that, but they revealed his stage.
Right. Okay. I mean, that definitely, it makes sense. I don't know if there's any way else I can put it. Like, it's a good argument.
It's believable.
Yes. Whereas the fact, like, obviously there's more support, definitive support, not like leaks that could be fake. But we know that Rathalos is in the game, and we know there is a location that is kind of representative of Monster Hunter.
Which at this point, we don't even know if that's a stage.
We don't. And that's also a fair point, because we do know that, there are locations within other games that aren't stages, and it might just be something a little bit more generic and not specifically like a Monster Hunter location. It could just be something.
That is definitely the ancestral step from Monster Hunter 4. Like, that can't be argued.
Okay.
That is definitely the ancestral step. But you do make a point. Like, we do see some other locations from characters that aren't necessarily stages, because if you look at the Simon and Richter video footage from the August Direct, there's a segment where they're fighting Dracula, but it's on a different stage. It's still Dracula's castle, but it is a different Dracula's castle than the one we get in the actual playable stage. So it's my anticipation, if Monster Hunter is a character, that Ancestral Step will be a stage, but the version we're seeing is retrofitted or outfitted for specifically for the boss battle.
Okay.
That's how I put it all together in my head anyway.
Okay, I mean, that's a fair argument. I don't really have anything to refute it. Not that I would want to, because I do want Monster Hunter, the Hunter, in the game. How do you think they'll frame that? Do you think they'll just call it the Hunter?
I think it will be Monster Hunter.
Monster Hunter. Okay.
Similar to Duck Hunt.
Right.
I I won't get into like possibilities for movesets and whatnot because we could go on about that for hours. But that is how I think the direct will open. And it sounds like you're pretty much in agreement with that.
Uh, Again, I think it's the safest bet. I think it's also from a standpoint of presentation. That's what I would want as a viewer. And I think most people would want that because I think for the vast majority of people, the character roster is the most exciting aspect.
Yeah, what
Of
better way to
Smash.
start the show?
Right. And then I think there's also evidence to support that in the fact that they've done it time and time again. It seems like a lock at this time. Now that being said, there is a possibility that they could do things differently because just because there's a pattern doesn't mean that it's an inevitability,
Right.
of course. But I think the
Definitely.
likelihood, again, if I had to bet on something, that would be it, you know.
I could also see it going if there is some like if Spirits is a full on single player story mode of some kind. I could see there being some kind of cinematic trailer specific to that, and us opening the direct with that rather than a character reveal.
Right.
Because then things would unfold the same way, but we'd get to the point a little faster.
Yeah. Now, in terms of it being spirits, I think that's definitely the thing I want to talk about right now.
Yeah, let's get into it.
I think if it ends up being a single player experience, and I think to a degree it will be, I feel like with Nintendo's focus on online, I don't think. I mean, didn't Subspace Emissary do co-op?
Every single player mode in Brawl and beyond had co-op,
Right.
including Subspace.
So I would hope that Spirits also has the ability to be co-op because
I'm incredibly confident that Spirits will be co-op. If it's what we think it is.
The thing that I'm not sure that it would be or have is online co-op.
I do have a theory about online, but we'll get to that later.
Okay. So yeah, but I don't know. I mean, there's not a lot of specifics that we can draw from. There's not like a lot of information that we can draw on. It's just a lot of speculation. And Subspace Emissary is obviously what a lot of people want. And so here's the argument I'm making is the fact that Sakurai has been very open about people want this. I'm going to give it to them. Right?
It plays right into the name of the game.
Exactly. So I don't think it'd be too far of a stretch to say that Spirits is a Subspace Emissary type mode. Now, that being said, I think they'll probably learn from the shortcomings of Subspace Emissary, as they should.
I would hope so after 10 years.
Yeah, and figure out a good way of presenting that and really, I would even hope that they would have like some really stellar cutscenes in there on, at least in the caliber of like some of these reveal trailers,
Yeah, exactly. Like if they're anything like the character trailers we've gotten, we're in for a treat.
Yeah. And so the amount of time they've put into this and the amount of I don't know, in a sense I feel like Nintendo's setting themselves up for failure because like Ultimate is not just like, a highly anticipated Smash game, but this might be like one of the best hype cycles we've ever been on, and
especially
so
for how short it is.
Yeah, people's expectations are very, very high. And
well,
Nintendo
I mean, remember our reaction to the August Direct, and the original E3 reveal. I had my mind blown both times, and my expectations exceeded both times.
Right. Yeah,
I don't
haven't really
anticipate
been let
Sakurai
down.
to fail me again.
Yeah. It seems like I think, I think we've had time to live with the internet for long enough where we've gained enough information and metrics and statistics and such where it's easier to understand how the internet functions and how people function on the internet, and they can account for that. And hopefully, they actually have spent some time, and there's a lot of discussion as to how this rolls out because, man, this marketing has been fantastic. The pacing of information dropping has been fantastic. Their decision,
save for maybe the last 5 weeks.
Yeah. But even then, like, that can be, I'd say that might be intentional too. Like, you have a kind of a mini drought of sorts because then people aren't they're guessing here and there that the direct's going to come, and then it doesn't come, and so all of a sudden, like, it's all broken up. You can't anticipate it, and that plays into the hype,
And with the August 8th Direct, like, there was 5 characters revealed in that Direct. And I think they set a precedent for themselves, and they knew if they came back with another Direct that didn't meet that kind of expectation, that people were going to walk away disappointed. Not that I'm saying that they're going to be 5 characters or more, but, I mean, that's part of the thought process that I think would play into the 5 weeks we've had no info.
Right. And, I mean, obviously, like, we'll find out, in 2 days, and I think on average I've been better about tempering my expectations, and so as I temper my expectations, it's like, oh wow, they gave me a lot more than I was anticipating. Like, I'm almost always now on the side of, like, we're going to get less, I think that also makes things more exciting when we do get more.
It's good to think that way, especially when Sakurai's MO is to give you more.
Right. But I think outside of Smash, because we're not just comparing this to other Smash directs, but we're comparing it to what they've done in other directs in general and how they function in that. But I think on average,
we have to take a moment to note that, like, the directs that Sakurai and his team produce are outsourced.
Right.
And I think I wouldn't be surprised if they're just made by a completely different team than the ones who typically do a Nintendo Direct.
Right.
But to kind of support your argument in regards to Spirits being a kind of full-fledged single-player mode, one of the reasons I don't think that we got it in Smash 4 is because of the 3DS. The 3DS took a substantial amount of development time away from, like, mode populace, you know what I mean?
Yes, yeah.
And also capabilities of just the game in general.
Right, because they had to make concessions based on the fact that this game is also going to be on the 3DS, and there can't be too much disparity between the functionality and content of these games, especially with the base gameplay.
Right.
We have to have that. That has to have complete parity.
So if we think that, what did we say it was? Like 2.5 years of development time for Smash Ultimate?
Yep.
I think if you account for that, but all of it being focused on a single game, despite the unbelievably huge roster, I don't think it's out of the question for them to have had the time to make a single player experience like Subspace again.
I would agree. Also, do we know for sure if Bandai Namco is involved with this development? I can't remember.
I think they are.
Okay.
I think they are this time again.
Having a larger company and more people on the project, and then obviously they had a lot of people and they were able to make 2 versions of the game with that. And just thinking about if all those resources were put onto one game, and one version of one game, that frees up a lot of possibilities, and the teams can be bigger for different aspects of it, and you can have more QA testers and people who are doing balancing, and then obviously you have Sakurai going in and actually making sure that happens. And we also don't know how much or what he's given away, what concessions he's made to make sure that he's not being too terribly controlling. Maybe it hasn't changed at all, but I guess you can't assume just because development was like it here with this game that it's going to be with similar with this game. You know,
I mean,
maybe
development is it's a learning process.
right.
They've made Smash Brothers. This is now the sixth time if you count 3DS and Wii U as separate entries, which Sakurai does. So for our purposes, we'll say that they're separate entries. They've done this over and over again.
Yeah.
They have to be getting better and more efficient at how they approach development.
Yeah, I would hope that Sakurai feels comfortable giving away certain responsibilities that he traditionally has had so much control over.
One in particular is character balancing.
Yes.
He used to do them all by himself, and I believe Smash 4 was the first time he kind of let go a little bit.
Yeah, and then I think that's good for a number of reasons. Good in the sense of Sakurai can dedicate his time to actually thinking about what needs to be added to the game and content wise, and then obviously just having like more of a producer role, even though he still is the director.
Yeah.
But then at the same time, like, we've lived with Smash Bros for so long, and I just think it's funny that like just recently the style of platform fighter has just really caught on and branched out in a significant way from Smash Bros. You know, we have tons of, you know, you might call them Smash Bros clones.
Rivals of Ether, I think, is the best competitor to that format right now.
Yeah. And so there's other ones, of course, and I'm glad it's happening. But what I think that speaks to is people have an understanding of that specific style of fighter much more than they used to. And so you have these people who have played the game thousands and thousands of hours and all the different iterations at different speeds. So you have a lot.
And Sakurai is being more receptive, too, to competitive player response. Like, he was taking notes during the invitational, and players who have been playing have been talking to Treehouse members and Nintendo reps, and they have been, you know, fueling that information or funneling that information back to Sakurai.
So I had this thought last week, I believe, when they had the World Championship for Classic NES Tetris. And the Vlog Brothers did a video, specifically John Green did the video, about why people are getting so much better at Tetris. And his reasoning was, his claims were that there is a much larger community, a much more connected community. People are figuring out more parts about the game because it's like all of a sudden the research is crowdsourced and they're sharing their findings and people are
like speedrunning.
It is. I mean, but I think that's the beauty of something like the internet.
For sure. So, yeah, I mean, you look at Melee, and Melee just had new tech discovered like a week or two ago for Link. And that game's 17 years old.
Yeah, so just because now that you know, these communities are growing and there's more platforms where they're sharing more things than ever, all of a sudden people are becoming more knowledgeable. And then when you get enough of those people who have been doing it for so many years, and then all of a sudden they're the ones on the development team, like, that's a huge asset, right?
Yeah, you look at Splatoon 2, and I think that's very apparent with the way that game is developed and patched over time. Like, the team doesn't turn the other way. They're playing the game. They're aware of what people are capable of and what kind of exploits they can employ, and they can fix it now.
Right. So I think the probability that this game has a lot more content than we all, you know, we're anticipating, even from the launch, and even that we anticipate now. It's daunting to think about.
Well, let's reel it back in a little bit and talk a little bit more about spirits. So, do we think, just baseline, this will be an evolution of Subspace Emissary, similarly formatted? Is that what you expect?
That's what I'm anticipating currently. You know, I don't know. Obviously, we don't know for sure. Uh, but there's the question. It's like, would I like that? Do I want it to be compared to Subspace Emissary? Do I want some sort of a departure? I what I like about Subspace Emissary, it is this huge, like, overarching campaign, this story, and I like the idea that there's going to be a story with all of these characters, and they're all going to be interacting in different ways. But then again, I feel like Subspace Emissary felt a little bit tacked on, in the sense that, like, it didn't account for the nature of the gameplay, right?
I
At
think
least,
it did and it didn't.
well, that's what I'm saying. Is like I feel like it kind of like shoehorned into this like really large like level design, and I'm not sure that was to its benefit. Like,
I mean, it's a platform fighter, so they focused on platforming, which I think was an intelligent move.
right,
It's I personally I think the way the characters interact with the enemies might be more important than so much changing the platforming design.
right,
Because I feel like the enemies didn't so much fit into the design of the stages in the way that the stages were just designed to be a platformer. Like when you initiate combat with an enemy, they don't respond to attacks the same way that another character does.
right.
And
It's
I
like,
think
oh, they're there,
that's
and we're
where it
gonna
falls
go
short.
hit them, and then you just have to make sure you don't get hit by their attacks. Instead of like, oh, they're coming to attack me. How do I counteract this? How
And
do I
they
make it
reused
interesting?
that design for Smash Run on 3DS. Characters interacted with enemies in the exact same way as they did in Subspace Emissary. I think Smash Run leaned a little bare than Subspace did because obviously they had some time to get better at that. But
Right,
I do think, personally, I think if it is a story mode like I want it to be, I think it will be pretty close to what we saw in Subspace Emissary, but a lot more polished.
right.
One
Well,
thing I would like to see changed,
yeah,
Subspace Emissary took place in the world of trophies, except the world of trophies was just this big landscape with a mountain and a floating island and a stadium that had nothing to do with any of the characters that lived there.
right,
We need to kind of reel it in a little bit and focus on these different worlds a little bit more, I think. We had
right.
Skyworld from Kid Icarus, but that was the only location besides the jungle.
Yeah. Well, I mean, here's a good question, because like obviously I feel like this story should deal with the nature of the Smash universe. If there was anything that I wanted addressed, like what would that look like? How is it that all of these characters have come into the same dimension to battle each other?
I
Um,
think there is like a lore that Master Hand is the creator of all these things, and
Right,
he
but how
makes them
much of
fight
that is
for
like
his enjoyment.
explicit as opposed to implicit? Because there's a
I
lot
think
that we imply.
some of it is explicit through interviews with Sakurai, and some of it's explicit through trophies. And I think we take those little bits of information and tie them together as best as we can.
Right,
Um, like the plot of Subspace Emissary is not explicit, but if you read the trophies, then the explicitness of the plot can be found.
right,
Um, I do hope they do that a little bit better. Can we have at least like one or two characters that talk? I don't need everybody to talk. I need somebody to talk though.
right. Like Palutena.
Pit and Palutena. If Pit and Palutena talk, I can accept everybody else being quiet.
I mean, I feel like they could even play with that. Not obviously, this is like
Like
purely
jokingly.
conjecture. Well, could you imagine like somebody like trying to talk to Link and then them playing with the fact that he's like a silent protagonist and that all he makes are like grunt noises, and then maybe them being all like really confused as like Palutena and like Pit are just chatting with each other, and then like Link walks up and goes, "Yeah," and all of a sudden they're like, "Do you know what he's saying? I don't know what he's saying, man." Like,
I want like
yeah,
I want Pit to like start making grunt noises back to see if he can communicate. His innocent nature is the kind of nature that would try and do that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think like a little bit more exposition through some of the characters, like Pit and Palutena, like you said, would benefit the overall experience.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think at this point it's pretty clear. Like, we expect spirits uh, on Thursday.
Oh, there's no way there won't be spirits in this direct.
Right.
Like at this point, it was merely speculation as to what spirits could be.
Right.
But I think we've done that enough for now. Like we said, we'll know in 2 days. But this is what we want to see as far as spirits goes. And for all we know, once we see spirits, we could have been wrong about what we wanted to see. That's my hope.
Right.
Uh, Online is another big component of Smash Ultimate that we know actually nothing about. Well, we do know one thing. We know that it will support up to 32 players online, which I assume is just tournament mode.
Yeah, I would say that's probably a pretty safe bet. I don't think we're gonna get 32 player battles.
No. If that happens, I might pee myself.
I also
For
like
what? How?
Yeah, I mean 8-player battles are pretty egregious, on their own.
If we boost the number of players at all, we go no higher than 10.
Yeah.
And at this point, it's just Sakurai like showing off.
Yeah. So obviously having 32 people in the same lobby to do like a singular tournament would make sense.
It's like having 16 hunters in a room in Monster Hunter, but only 4 can go out in a hunt at one time.
Right.
Like
So
it's exactly that.
That makes me question whether they're going to have some sort of maybe like squad system, or clans, clubs.
Like doing like a crew battle, or are you talking like a community feature?
Yeah, like a community feature. Just kind of like, okay, get all your friends, and like, this is something that's popping up in like every game, and obviously it's been in some larger games for quite some time. But I mean, they just added like a club system to like Rocket League just recently. I think that would be something, because anything that you can do to increase the likelihood that people are going to keep coming back to the game, right? So including those community features. So all of a sudden, like as a group, you can plan events. Maybe, I mean, did they have tournament codes in Smash Wii U?
They did when Miiverse was still around, but after they removed Miiverse, the entire online tournament mode was shut down.
Okay, I anticipate something like that will come back. So,
yeah, there will be an online tournament feature, and there will be community-based tournaments. Like we've seen that with Mario Kart. We saw community-based level designs from Mario Maker. It doesn't make sense not to do that. Like it's still surprising to me that Splatoon 2 doesn't have a community online tournament feature.
yeah.
Or like a clan system.
Oh yeah,
like,
especially the clan system. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, just being able to like do things to, again, encourage play, encourage that community.
Harrison in the chat mentions the LEDs on the Switch Joy-Cons and Pro Controller only go up to 8, just like the blue indicator on the Wii Remote. However, I think in the case of the Wii Remote, when you had more than 4 connected, okay, I guess that's what he's saying. Like when it was up to 8, like if you were player 5, 2 of the LEDs would light up rather than 1.
Right, right.
I think you could get up to 12 if you started using 3 instead of 2. If I'm thinking about this right.
You could arrange the LEDs in a number of configurations to increase that number.
Yeah, I don't think the Switch is bottlenecked by the amount of controllers that can be connected.
I wouldn't think so at this point. I mean, not much of a utility in connecting so many.
You could definitely get up to 10.
Right. Easily.
That said, I don't think 10-player Smash is going to happen. That was just a joke. Okay, so I had a theory I mentioned earlier for online. And actually, before I get into that, that's going to play a little bit into what I was discussing, but specifically with the clans and community modes. we have that dashboard now that you can bring up by pressing like ZR or whatever on any menu at just like anywhere in the Smash Ultimate menus.
Yeah.
And it shows up on the side and has like very basic options that you can select from. There's like a messaging system in there, and there was one that was blurred out. If that's not spirits, I wouldn't be surprised if that's a community tab to access your clan information. That'd be a perfect place for something like that.
I yeah. Yeah. Yeah, okay, wait. I totally I might have missed something. You're talking about the tab on the side?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. I don't feel like it would I feel like that would be the most logical place for the community features. Is you bring up that and here's the settings, here's your community, here's your setting, your clan or whatever they decide to call it. Yeah, that would make sense. And that maybe that's one of the reasons why they hit it, you know.
Yeah. I like personally I am pretty sure that's just going to be spirits, but who knows? I think that'd be a good place for a community-like feature. But bringing it back to my theory about the online for Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, there is a button for online, but there's also a button. I want to say there's a button on the dashboard on the side. And the reason I bring that up is because I think, and I could be very wrong about this, but I think that you'll be able to access the entirety of Super Smash Bros. Ultimate online, and when people join, it will just be in a lobby in your game session, which you could then navigate to a mode, start that mode, and those players that are connected would be virtual ports, like virtual ports 2 through 4 or whatever, and then join those various modes. That's what I think should happen, what I would like to see for Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, because you would theoretically have access to everything in multiplayer. I imagine some things probably wouldn't be available.
Yeah.
But that, I think, would keep the menu less cluttered and would be a very modern design decision.
Yeah. I mean, just the few menus I've seen have looked very sleek and much less confusing. I'm still curious as to how the main menu will function. A part of me thinks that because of that whole circle design, that the select will be much like a weapon wheel in menus.
Oh yeah.
And I was like, why have people not done this sooner? Because like that's a really, really easy way of selecting something. And it also is like, it's quantifiable in a really understandable way. And so just to be like, oh, here's a bunch of, items on the menu, and then you just scroll, point with your joystick, to wherever it needs to go. Like
That'd be the fastest menu navigation in any Smash game ever.
I feel like it'd be faster than any game ever, instead of having to
think
scroll
about
through a bunch of
having that.
options.
Think about having that in tandem with just a basic lobby system for Smash. Like as soon as someone joins your lobby or your party, then you can just use the radial menus, get to what you want, and start playing.
Yeah.
Like that's snappy, it's fast, it fits with the design philosophies of the actual Switch menu design. That's my perfect world right there, I think.
Yeah. That may be one of the most exciting things, because Smash menus have not always been terribly functional. I mean, except Melee was very simple and very nice and clean.
So is Smash 64.
Yeah, but then at a certain point they got really odd, and
I will defend Brawl, because Brawl's, while it fits kind of Sakurai's more modern, or I guess his wife's more modern menu design motifs, it was still very functional and very easy to navigate.
Yeah.
It's just progressively gotten more complicated.
Yeah.
I guess I shouldn't say progressive. There's only been 1 or 2 games since then.
Right. But they had like a few, I would say, misstep with some of the designs of like Smash Wii U.
The games and more button.
Yeah, like why is that there?
What is the games and more button? Why is
That'd
it there?
be like somebody like me trying to design a menu and be like,
okay, so online. Say that my theory doesn't happen and they don't use a basic lobby system to navigate just the basic menu that you get when you turn the game on. It let's say that it is like the previous games where you press the online button, it takes you to the online menu, and then you go to options. What do you think will be available for online play?
I feel like we will get an extension of For Fun and For Glory. I think those names will be gone. But there will be a section for casual and competitive play. Two different sections. So depending on whether you want to play, and I think this falls in line with like pretty much any competitive game that's been released in the last few years, is like you can either play like a ranked version or just a more casual version. And obviously, I think the ranked will be a little bit more limited in terms of the rules. Maybe you'll have like a few presets that you'll be able to choose from, like no items, or
That would be
maybe like
nice.
maybe specific like item sets at certain frequencies. Um, even and then obviously I would hope that for the casual play side, that whoever is the head of the lobby can determine what the rules are, or decide if they want to open up suggestions to other people in the room to maybe choose a rule set for that round. Just like how you can take turns in choosing stages. You can set that to turns, and then it automatically assigns that responsibility to a different player within the group.
I think that would be nice. I think kind of giving more options for battle customization is something that Smash 4 definitely, starves from. Um, like if they just wanted to do a casual mode, a competitive mode, and like you said, have some basic presets that you could choose from, or if they had an additional mode, just like custom battle, where you could set your own rule set, and then somebody could join. Like if it showed up in a list, and you could see that what the rule sets were, or if you could search by rule sets,
Yeah.
and then join matches that specifically cater to what you're looking for, that would be nice.
That would be nice. Yeah.
Um, I want to take it back to stage selection, though, because in For Glory in Smash 4, you could only play on Omega versions of the stages in the game, and that sucks. I'm just going to be honest.
Yeah,
Like,
because like
the
sometimes
competitive scene is a little bit more fun than that.
yeah, they actually offer, obviously there are legal and non-legal stages. But I am all for giving tools to the player to set those boundaries on their own instead of setting those boundaries for them.
I don't think they should be afraid of it being hard to find matches. Like,
Yeah.
separating the player pools, because if you look at Smash 4, it's still super easy to find matches, and it's 4 years old.
Yeah.
That won't be a problem.
I would agree. So I feel like if if they listen to my design philosophies that I kind of adhere to, um, don't be so limiting, just give us more options. And I think that is a trend that we continue to see with this game. Even the options of being able to turn on and off stage hazards, right? Just
Or
give
stack
us,
your Echo Fighters on their character portraits.
yeah. So giving us those options to organize things and then also customize things a little bit more. The fact that you can save rule sets, that's huge. That's everything. That's
Oh, yeah, that was a great addition.
because like that they're gonna be people who like, okay, our standard is no items, um, 3 stock, 1v1s, and then you have like, I wonder if those rule sets also attach into the idea that, in the random select you can turn off certain stages. So I wonder if that can be customized per
Oh,
rule set as well.
that'd
And
be
so that
perfect.
way, it's like, okay, here, if maybe you want to adhere to what the competitive scene has legal, right? And so you turn off everything that's not that in the random stage select. And then every time it's like, okay, it's a random selection and you'll only go to what is legal, you know?
And hopefully the hazard toggle can also kind of tie into that, like a hazard toggle select. Like, because I think hazard toggle is a global option right now. I would like it if you could assign stages to have hazards on or off by default, so that you don't have to dig back into the menu to switch it on or off on a case by case basis, with the stages you're fighting
Yeah.
on.
I think that's a plausible outcome. I think that's plausible. Obviously, there's no guarantees, but I don't think I would put it past Sakurai for him to actually include that. I mean, we didn't know we were getting stage hazards, but it's what people have been asking for. And then, so it's like, okay, if you want stage hazards, and then we also get custom sets, and then we can also turn and off, on and off certain stage for random select. Like, I feel like it just makes sense, like how many intersections. I mean, even Nintendo talking about like multiplicative like gameplay and stuff like that. So you take all these aspects and then they kind of like all intersect in different ways. I feel like that would also apply to the actual design philosophy of the game. Granted, it didn't take away things, but in terms of actually like constructing different rule sets, I feel like that's not too far gone. I think that's a plausible outcome.
For sure. There's a couple things in the comments I want to address. Harrison says maybe they can make the lobby vote for Omega or Battlefield stage versions online. I'm assuming he means in competitive matches. I would also like it if we could just play on the regular versions of stages with hazards off, because there are a few of them that could be competitively legal under those circumstances, and I don't
Yeah.
want to be that limited.
Well, and that's why I think like maybe a lobby vote might work, but if you're playing with friends, then you can just set the rule set to what everybody kind of agrees upon.
And you can
um
already do that in Smash 4 with friends, which is
right.
nice.
But
But
the
specifically for with anyone,
right.
when those are the kinds of additions that I think are important. Um, and then Harrison also asks about the for fun aspect of things, hazards on or Omega. I think we're just going to keep in line with what we've been saying and kind of vie for some different options or some rule sets that we can set on our own.
Yeah, have a little bit of variation, I understand, with something um like that like specifically talking about like a ranked for glory type of mode, giving us some options, but obviously tailoring it so most people, if they're jumping into it, that they feel like those are um acceptable and fair constraints on the gameplay,
Mm-hmm.
like we do willingly in the actual competitive scene, when there's people who are overlooking and deciding like how do we get a how do we create an environment in which the thing that primarily matters is the player's abilities to counter each other and to deal
We
with each
also
other.
need the ability to change our rules with the ever changing unified global rule set for competitive play. Like the rule set is something that's going to evolve as people figure out what's best for Smash Ultimate. And I don't want us to be locked into something that ends up not being what we all decide is the best by the time we make that decision.
Yeah. And that's definitely something like that's a power that you should give to the players and not necessarily have to like handle on a developer side, like, oh, the rule set changed, so we as the developers have to go in and change it. But making the this like,
Woo! Bless you.
making the system not too terribly rigid, so when those decisions do change based on new information or how the game functions, people can change those rules accordingly for their own engagement.
A couple other things to bring up. First, hello to Paul in the chat. Not our Paul, but a Paul. We're doing good. Hope you're doing good yourself. Harrison also brings up a couple other things I want to mention. He said Sakurai said one of the key themes of Smash Ultimate is inclusivity, which I believe is in support of our hopes for how rule sets are decided in online. And he says, hence everyone is here, all these stages, all these modes, and music as well. And Benjamin says, giving players all that power is a curse and a blessing. I agree, but I think more options in the grand scheme of things is better than, being constricted or restricted.
Right. And that's why I think in a general sense, people do pretty well if given more freedom,
It's something that Nintendo and Sakurai's team is going to have to, moderate very closely to make sure things aren't being abused.
Right. Well, and that's why giving people more tools is important. So tools to regulate themselves, Obviously, there has to be some degree of control on a developer side. That's why they don't allow dirty words, to be typed out within the game itself. They don't want to enable people in that way. There's other places for that kind of activity, right? But in terms of making the choices in terms of gameplay, I think that's something that the more control that we have, the better, right? Because then we can all explore these different things and kind of just decide for ourselves what is best, what is acceptable. So just kind of giving us like more of a sandbox, more than anything else.
Harrison puts it in a good way. He says, as long as everything is optional and not forced, enabling everyone to play their own way.
Yeah.
And like he said before, that's something that Sakurai specifically holds very dear, and it is expressed a whole lot through his game design, is making sure that people can do things the way they want.
Yeah.
Like, he has a way he likes to play Smash, but he definitely recognizes that that's not the way for everyone.
Yeah. And again, like there's already like an overwhelming amount of support that's going to continue to happen, and we're going to get more features like that given the rule sets and the rule sets is less of like because obviously you could change the rule sets willy-nilly as needed, but this just makes those rule sets more accessible. So obviously if you have like a specific type of play in mind, you already have that preset that you're going to bring up, and then you don't have to. It makes it easier, and it makes the user experience that much simpler. Same with like the stage hazards. It's like they've finally given us the option just to turn off that and just have like a vanilla stage.
That was something I remember talking about a lot during Smash 4's development cycle, specifically like with you back when we were in our college dorm room.
Right.
Like that was the number one thing I wanted.
We've been talking about it for a long time.
Yeah. Going back to kind of the broader discussion of online, so we've obviously talked about kind of competitive and casual play for just basic Smash. And in my mind, that includes time, that includes stock, that includes coin, and now it would also include stamina, since that's been made a main Smash mode.
Yeah.
But on top of those things, assuming that my theory about a global lobby system is wrong, which I also assume is wrong, that's just what I want. Do you think modes like Squad Strike and Smashdown will be available online?
Do I think that they'll be available online? No. Do I want them to be available online? Yes.
I could see Smashdown being online because that just takes characters away from the slots as matches go on.
Yeah.
Squad Strike could be a little trickier based on how that works. Because we still don't know if that is, once your character dies, your next character spawns, or if it's one round at a time with each pair of characters down the line. We actually don't know. Nintendo has explained it as the former, but it's still really unclear.
Yeah. I feel like there should just be like an online switch, like on anything, right? And so depending on whether you're playing locally or you're wanting to, and maybe like a combination of the
Like
both, right?
similar to kind of the lobby idea I had.
Yeah, just like be able to be in a lobby at any point and just like open it up, and then oh, I have, maybe there's like you and a friend are sitting on the couch, um, and he can log into his online his Nintendo account, and then you can be playing and collecting your own stats. But then all of a sudden, like, well, we're just playing locally, and all of a sudden you just hit the switch and anybody can join. Like ideally that's how it would function. That there just
That's
kind
pretty
of be
nice, yeah.
something a little bit more seamless.
That feels like a step down and a step up from my concept.
Okay.
Rather than being like online for the entire menu screen, like you could activate online from the individual modes and then open the lobby for other players to join, which I think is also a nice solution to that. And it also probably takes less resources than making it globally online.
Right. I mean, I don't necessarily think that everything has to be online, but I like the idea of, like maybe I don't have any friends. And I just want to, but I have friends who are other places, and I get on, like maybe there's an event match, and I want to be able to do co-op with a friend over the internet, I want the option to play with anybody from anywhere if, I'm playing and going back and forth, or even doing something like the
home run contest.
Yeah, home run contest, right?
Those types of modes were already available.
Oh, were they?
They were in Brawl. I actually can't remember if they are in Smash 4, but they definitely were in Brawl.
But there's a precedence for it, which is encouraging, because I never played Brawl online once.
To comment on Harrison's message, how about stamina and coin modes for online? I actually did mention that just being parts of the basic rule sets for online play. I think they will just be available.
Yeah.
Also, someone mentioned earlier, I think it was Paul, saying that he wishes coin battles would return. I'm pretty sure coin battles were in Smash 4.
Yeah, I don't know why you would take them out. I mean, it's an extra way to play the game,
Harrison says yes, they were in Smash 4.
Okay.
We must have pretty little delay to get those answers so fast. Harrison says, what about local play like Smash 3DS had? That's a lock. That's happening. Like between local switches.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. That's happening. Yeah, I think we will see stadium events come back to online, including like multi-man Smash, home run contest, target Smash if that returns, and any of those types of modes. I think we will see the introduction of a new stadium event. That's kind of been a theme in all these Smash games. I think Brawl is the exception. I think Brawl is the only one that didn't have a new stadium event.
Let's talk about stadium events, because that's something I haven't really thought about. And obviously I wasn't a huge fan of some of the remixes on the stadium events in Smash 4.
I was not a fan really at all of the new target mode.
That's exactly what I wanted to talk about. Like, and even with like Brawl, like they did the same thing, except they just had like the 3 like different target like stages.
At the very least, it was still target Smash at that point.
Yes. I would like to see largely a return to Melee's target Smash.
I agree 100%, but I can't help but think of the undertaking.
Yeah. Well, what I
think Echoes could have the same as their mains.
Yeah.
Or their counterparts.
Also, I think maybe you could draw like maybe a little bit of a a compromise between what they did in Melee and what they did in Brawl. So having set, you know, like
Target smash stages
stages, but then changing up the target locations based on the
based on the
abilities and the
characters. Okay.
characters.
I think that's a good idea. I mean, that said, like the assets used between all the target smash stages and Melee were mostly the same between all the characters.
Right.
So I guess it wouldn't be that huge of an undertaking.
So yeah, and then maybe make little tweaks. Like they wouldn't have to like do it again and again, but you know they could go through and make minor tweaks and not have to do like a terrible amount of work.
For sure.
In terms of other things, obviously, I think we're gonna get home run contest.
Run contest is like synonymous with Smash Brothers.
Right. I mean, you got the sandbag. They had that really nice like statue at the I think it was at E3.
Oh, at E3, yeah, it was there.
Iconic. Absolutely iconic.
Definitely. Sandbag's a character now, confirmed. I mean, I think it's pretty obvious that Multi-Man Smash is going to come back. We talked about in our recent discussion of the Smash blog and the latest Nintendo Stuff episode that we think that the new Multi-Man team will be Dittos. Dittos transformed into the characters for the new Multi-Man Smash team.
Yeah, I think that's a really great concept because obviously you can just have like any character be thrown in there, and obviously they're a copy, not the original, which is in line with kind of like the generic look of the baddies from Multi-Man Smash throughout the series. You know, whatever form they take on, there's a form of consistency and basicness that you're dealing with them at. But then obviously changing up the move sets would be pretty big, even if it was just like a few of the move sets, more than 2 I would hope.
For Multi-Man?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, the idea I imagine would be for the Dittos to carry over their main counterparts' moveset.
Right.
But yeah, definitely I hope for more than 2 because that was a little disappointing in Melee. And a little disappointing in Smash Wii U when we only had 3 sets.
Right. Yeah. We could stand to have a few more
Brawl hit like a good amount. I think there was like 6 or 7 different alloys, or maybe just 4, but there was definitely enough that it was interesting.
Right.
And then the Fighting Polygon team, I think, pulled from the entire roster. It doesn't have to do that, but if we had like 8 to 12, I think that's your sweet spot.
Right. Well, as long as it's, I mean, as balanced as that mode can be, just
right.
Being aware of that and not throwing everybody in there. But
I think we'll see all of these stadium events tomorrow. I mean, on Thursday, and I believe all of them will be available online.
So, I mean, do you think we're just gonna get like all the modes? We're gonna get all the modes revealed, and
yeah. Other modes I expect to be there because I'm seeing a lot of discussion here. Event match is going to be back. There will be standard events. There will be co-op events, and there'll be their own lists, just like the last 2 games. I don't think masterpieces will come back. For those of you who don't know what masterpieces are, they were little demo bites of games that were, had characters in Brawl. And there was like little 1.5 minute segments of like Super Mario World or Ocarina of Time that you could play right inside of Brawl. I don't think that's happening.
I don't think it's happening either. I mean, already with the online, you're getting a bunch of NES games. I'm not sure how much cross promotion there will be with that, but I don't think it's necessary.
We already know about training mode. Obviously, that's going to be in the game. One from Wii U. Master Orders and Crazy Orders. I think they will carry over into the next Smash. I really liked those modes in Smash 4. Logan, do you know what Master Orders is?
Yes, but it's been a minute since I touched it, but I know what you're talking about.
So basically, like, you would complete missions for Master Hand and or Crazy Hand in exchange for like orders tickets that you would pay them, or you'd have to pay them money. But basically, you would go on a gauntlet of these missions and try to get as far as you can or to the end and fight Master Hand and Crazy Hand. And each mission, you would be able to select from like 3, I think, and they would
Yeah.
have different rewards that you could get if you beat them.
Right.
And basically, you just stack all the rewards that you want until you get to the end, and then hopefully win it and take it all. I loved that mode. I thought it was a lot of fun, so I would love to have that back.
Yeah.
Even if we don't have custom moves, which I think is a pretty safe bet at this point.
Right.
But like CDs, trophies, stickers if they come back, like that's more than enough collectibles to support a mode like Master Orders.
Yeah. Harrison's talking. At least though, was it Harrison? Trophy Rush. Did we talk
From
about Trophy
Smash 4? Smash
I don't
4
know.
had Trophy Rush. Basically, you had to beat up a bunch of boxes and,
Yeah,
go for
yeah, yeah,
crazy high
yeah.
scores.
I thought that was an interesting take on Trophy Rush.
I mean, they've changed the trophy collection mode in every game.
Yeah, it's always been different. I anticipate that we'll get something different, but there will be a mode where you can do something to earn trophies exclusively.
I specifically love the mode from Brawl, the coin launcher.
Oh,
It was its
yeah.
own game.
Yes, I that's what I think of when I think of Trophy Rush, and I think that was really good. Just like being able to launch the coin, just kind of like a little mini game. Yeah.
That is my favorite iteration of like the trophy mini game up to this point. Definitely like the most fun. Like they designed their own game inside of Smash for you to collect trophies. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
I see a lot of people saying they want like the lottery machine from Melee, but I don't really.
I like having something interactive. I really do. And obviously, I think in Smash 4 you still had the shop where you could just literally just spend your coins that you earned on new trophies. You know, if you didn't have.
And that was kind of nice to have.
I think that they should still have it. I think it makes certain things accessible and it gives people options, but I also really like the option of being able to actively engage in a activity that would earn me those trophies. And so
I think you'll also spend your coins, just talking about the shop really briefly, I think you'll also be able to spend your coins on characters. Like every once in a while, maybe a character will show up in there and you can buy them. And if there are stickers, maybe stickers in the shop as well. Just more ways to spend your coins is something Smash desperately needs.
Oh, I know what to do. So instead of a coin launcher, right? Because, like, I mean, there are physical arcade machines that, that's what it's, like, modeled after. So maybe we'll get a pachinko machine. That seems to be
that was my guess, like, the last time we talked about it. I am 100% that it's going to be a pachinko machine, because that just feels like the obvious choice right now.
I think it would also get the West into pachinko, which obviously we don't think about that, but then like in Japan, like you look at what's happening with some of those companies, specifically like Konami. It's like, oh, let's take all these wonderful franchises and just turn them into pachinko machines, because it's gonna make us cash money,
Yeah, I mean, that would be a great option. Harrison also mentions the idea of a pinball machine, which I think is a good idea.
Yeah.
I would play the heck out of that.
I love pinball.
Yeah, me too.
I love pinball.
So, yeah, I guess the consensus here is hopefully they do something creative, like an individual game, like they did with Brawl. And I think that'd be perfect.
Yeah.
Let's see. We talked about Master Orders and Crazy Orders. We talked about events. We talked about stadium events. Classic mode we know is returning. All-Star mode I think is coming back, and I think it's going to be in the form we've always seen it, despite the incredibly large character roster.
Yep.
And adventure mode we're hoping is just spirits mode, so I don't think there will be an individual adventure mode. That said, something that Brawl had, none of the other games have, is boss battles. So I think there will be a boss battle gauntlet mode after you complete spirits. That lets you just play all the bosses in a row on various difficulties to see if you can get to the end. It's basically the arena from the Kirby games, and like I said, it was in Brawl. Similar idea to All-Star mode. Also available in co-op, just like everything else.
Yes, yes.
Um, trying to think. Like, I can't think of any other modes besides like some people are saying board the platforms, race to the finish. Modes that we haven't seen since Melee and 64.
Yeah. I don't know if we'll see any of those necessarily, but I wouldn't be surprised if we got a new one that we just really can't anticipate, you know.
If they could add a new one or even take any of the old ones and just slot them back into classic mode, those are the kinds of things that make classic mode stand out, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So they always show up at specific missions. You always know you're going to get to take a break from just actual fighting to do something a little sillier. So I think having those in classic mode would be a good thing.
Yeah.
Speaking of classic mode, someone mentioned this earlier. I don't remember who, unfortunately, but they were asking if we expect there to be some kind of new evil entity at the end of Classic. I'm assuming beyond Master Hand and Crazy Hand. Because we had Master Core in all of his various forms in Smash 4. And I do think we're going to get something new. I don't think Master Core is coming back. I think they're going to do something new. I don't know. Where do you stand?
I don't know. I feel like I like the ever expanding lore of the Super Smash Bros. Universe. I feel like the Master Core was like a really great tie-in, especially kind of having that like justification for the actual the logo of Smash Bros. And such.
Yeah, for
I
sure.
feel like it won't necessarily come back, but I feel like that might play into something else, you know?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And just again, expanding upon the lore. And I don't necessarily know like the nature of it or how much discussion.
I have an idea.
Discussion revolving around.
I have my own
around the
idea
Smash
for a
Court.
new final boss.
Go for it. I'm all ears.
It's going to be a brain, and his name's going to be Mastermind.
Oh. And it's not going to be like the Brawl baddie Taboo.
No,
Just
it's
like
going to
something
be
really off the wall.
it's going to be a big brain, and to play onto the whole master motif, it'll be Mastermind because that's kind of perfect.
Okay, I think the ultimate baddie is going to be a GameCube controller.
Sakurai trying to put all those people to rest. Everybody's down for Mastermind in the chat. Thank you. Conman says, I'm mad you just did that.
I don't know. I feel like even after so many entries, I don't have any good guesses as to what that would be, because obviously I don't think anybody could have anticipated Taboo from Brawl, and I don't think anybody come again
or Master Core.
Yeah, or any of that stuff. So
I think the most important thing is that if there's something new and it's there.
Yes.
That's just my guess.
And that will definitely play into Spirits. And so I guess that's the real quick question. So like if spirits, let's say that's an allusion to like actual like spirits, you know, souls of some sort. Maybe there's the possibility that the reveal of the Belmonts and that whole situation with Luigi in the reveal trailer, that may play into it, and you're gonna have to go collect these souls. So maybe the baddie has something to do with that, and so that's going to craft what the main antagonist will be like in Spirits, you know. Or maybe the baddie's kind of like a Thanos type of character where he sees himself as the good guy,
I
and
mean,
he's
that was
doing the right.
taboo
Oh, was it? I
in a
never
way.
really
Yeah,
got into the actual narrative with like Taboo. So,
his whole goal was just to consume the world and subspace, which is his home.
right.
So to him, that was doing good. Maybe not as much in the way that Thanos does, but similar.
Right.
Um, yeah, I think that'd be cool. We had a couple people say Master Spirit. One guy, his name is Like and Subscribe, mentioned Master Spirit. That'd tie right into the name.
Sakurai is the final boss.
That's why I called it Mastermind, because it's his brain.
Oh man, that's a trip.
I think he sees himself as Master Hand because Master Hand created the world of trophies, and he's the one making him fight, and that's what Sakurai did.
Right. Was, mm,
Mm. Um, let's see, what else do we got? Uh, Smash Tour and Smash Run. I think one of them comes back, and I hope it's Smash Run.
yeah. I never got the chance to play Smash Run because I wasn't about to go out and buy Smash 3DS.
Smash Run was really fun. There's a couple things I'd like to see changed. I think all the characters, all the players should be able to interact with each other on the map. Um, you couldn't do that in Smash 3DS, and it kind of took some of the fun out of the idea. Like city trial mode, but none of you are there at the same time.
Right.
And that's not cool.
Yeah, I
Uh,
mean, you want that kind of engagement where you're like, oh, they're doing something, and so you have to balance like stopping other people from collecting items, as well as collecting items yourself. And so being able to do a little bit of both is going to put you in a better position for that final fight.
yeah. Some people are mentioning Smash Run Online. I would hope so. I could see that maybe being a little harder to pull off with all like the enemy characters and making sure that stays all synced up. Um, I hope it would be online. It's hard to say from a technical standpoint. I wouldn't know. Um, I think that covers pretty much all of the modes.
Yeah, I'm not. I'm trying to think of like anything else that could be in the game that we haven't talked about. That
We talked about
like,
collectibles. That
yeah,
I mean, trophies. I think is a given. Stickers might come back, maybe, but
maybe.
I think your main collectible is still just going to be trophies.
I mean, they've been in every game, so I don't know why they wouldn't come back. Um,
Let's see. I gave you one character prediction, and why don't you just give me one character prediction?
I
How do they close it out?
how do they
Better yet.
close it out? Ooh, that's a good one.
I think that's
Well,
a better question.
um, I think they will give us the probably the most hype character at the end, right? Or at least the least expected character right at the end.
Right, and we
Um,
should mention. I should mention that at this point, several characters probably have been revealed or sprinkled in through the direct. Um, but we're just talking about the final reveal.
yeah. So, what do I think will be the final character reveal of the direct? Um, so the first question is like whether we're getting another third party character, a significant third party character that would be a good reveal, a good like psych out. Like I think what'll happen is I think the likelihood that we'll get like 4 or 5 character reveals if there are that many left is a pretty high likelihood. Because I think we'll know all the characters after this direct, right? Um, and I
Oh yeah,
think
me too.
I think there's at least one third party character who's not an Echo. Will come. Like if we get a third party character who's an Echo, I think it'll be Shadow, but I don't think that's too terribly significant. I think that'll be somewhere. It could be the first thing they reveal. It could be something in the middle, but I don't think it'll be the last thing. In terms of like really probable first party characters, because some of them are first party, like the possibility of Mach Rider and Isaac is a pretty high likelihood, but I don't think those characters are necessarily as hype.
They're not your last reveal.
Yeah, those are like sprinkled in there. Um, I want to believe so badly that Nintendo struck a deal with Microsoft for Banjo and Kazooie.
Banjo-Kazooie, like outside of Monster Hunter and Geno, that's like my dream third-party character.
So, and
Well, and Sora, but still.
I think he's got the most legacy with Nintendo, and that he would obviously they would fit right in, and also the reaction. I think that would elicit the largest reaction. So, if you started out with that, then it would feel really like, oh man, doesn't get much better after this. So I think that would be something that you would save for the very, very end. Harrison saying Crash Bandicoot, and then he said, actually, nah, I don't think Crash Bandicoot's going to be in.
Me neither.
I obviously I think he's too tied to like Sony's legacy, and I feel like
I also don't think Rex and Pyro will be in. DLC maybe.
Yeah, DLC maybe. I think the possibility for DLC characters is there. Though I don't feel like they should lock them behind a paywall. I don't think they should lock characters behind a paywall this time around.
Really? Even after today's financial meeting where they said that they want to do more DLC.
I think they could find other ways of doing DLC. But I think I don't know. I just don't see them locking characters. I mean, that's what they did last time. I don't think they should.
And I mean, I don't think they should either, but it's such an easy way for them to make money.
I want to see more like cosmetic packs, like
I would buy them.
Yeah, like just, I'd spend a few dollars here and there just to buy.
So you're talking like an Overwatch kind of model.
Yeah, I think cuz obviously there's going to be enough cosmetics in the game right off the bat, like so many choices and
unlockable costumes?
Yeah, well, I don't know about unlockable costumes, but I could definitely see them developing more costumes and then releasing those. Things that aren't going to affect the gameplay, but they'll get to show your style. You really like this one? I'm going to spend a few dollars on this one.
Or maybe you could get a couple that will just turn your character into a different character. Like maybe you had a Dry Bones or a Dry Bowser skin for Bowser.
Right. Something that's significant that'll just change it up and, get more representation in the game, but then, not limit you to like, well, I can't afford $5 DLC for whatever reason. Maybe you're just really young, but then you still get the chance to play as those characters.
Yeah, I definitely kind of see your point, and I'm now kind of leaning in that direction myself.
Also,
unfortunately, I just don't see it happening that way.
Well, I do, and I'll say it because of this is the online offerings that they've given on the Switch thus far. Specifically with the online stuff with like Splatoon, is they do more DLC, but a lot of it's free, and the draw is that you're gonna draw people back in, right? If you say, oh, you have to spend $5 for this character, that's gonna draw in less people. It might draw in more short-term revenue, but in terms of the longevity of the player base, I think it's much better to do something that's more inclusive. And
what about this?
Yeah.
What if you're paying for Switch Online and that entitles you to the characters for free?
I say that sounds pretty acceptable.
I mean, they've touted these special offers that we still don't know what they are. Like, the only one we've gotten so far was the free Splatoon 2 gear for Switch Online.
Right.
But I think offering characters, or at least some characters for free for paying for online, is a very good, enticing idea.
I would agree. I think that's a good reason to. I mean, and then it would get more people to pay for something that they're going to want anyway.
At least like early access to these characters.
That would be cool too. That would be cool. It's like, okay, people who have the online are going to get it like 2 weeks earlier than everybody else or something like that, you know?
At the very least, they'd get people to use those free trials.
Right. Yeah. So anything to draw back to getting people on board with the service and such, I would be okay with that. And it's guys, it's so cheap. If you can't afford $20 for an entire year, well, there may be a
I mean,
myriad
there
of
are going to be
reasons why
cases
that.
where people can't. We
Right.
should like dismiss that.
Yeah, but like also like that would, and then I just adding value to that. It makes it easier to say that I'm going to spend those $20, you
And
know.
we already know, like, if you split it with people in a family group, like we experienced this with the Splatoon 2 gear, they gave a code for every single person in the group.
Yeah.
So hopefully it would work the same way. Otherwise, we would have to make some changes.
Yeah.
um, so you're saying Banjo for a final character reveal.
Yeah. I think it's likely enough.
I think I'm going to agree with you on that. I was thinking that Gino would be a bigger final character reveal. Maybe not bigger, like in a sense that we're reaching to another platform or another company, but bigger as in he's been a character that has been kind of historic in Smash character lists
Yeah.
since Melee. But then I was thinking about it, and Gino almost feels like a lock right now. So maybe doing that isn't a great idea.
Yeah,
A
cuz
final reveal should be something you're not expecting.
right, if you're expecting it then you're like, "Oh, like here it is." Like that's awesome. Everybody's super excited anyway cuz they just wanted to know that he was in the game, you know.
Harrison also makes a good point saying that Gino isn't as well known as Banjo, so like it wouldn't have as big of an impact on as many people.
Yeah. Like obviously they're going to be more like it's a more ravenous base because it's more condensed, you know. So the people who know about it would be like, "Oh yeah, Gino." But when you think about just classic like Nintendo associated characters, like everybody knows who Banjo is, you know, and seeing that kind of
Right.
rep in the game would be huge.
And then obviously we both anticipate that there's going to be Echo Fighters. I think everybody believes Ken and Shadow are going to be Echo Fighters at this point.
I would have a really hard time believing that they won't be represented as Echo Fighters in the game. Specifically Ken. Like Ken is Ryu except the Americanized version of him.
He is the Echo Fighter.
Yeah.
Um, Shadow just makes sense as an easy way to add to a franchise who has now had 3 games with Smash Brothers, and I think is deserving of another representative.
Yes.
I don't want to say it like it's an easy cash in, but I mean, Shadow is already supposed to be kind of a clone of Sonic in context, in a way, but
and then you could have his taunts, and then he would pull out his guns. And
maybe you could change his up B to like Chaos Control, and it would just be Mewtwo's up B, where he just kind of blips to another spot.
yeah, you could even change. Yeah, you could change small things like that just to differentiate him a lot, you know. But he'd still be very Sonic. Yeah, I'm really really fascinated to see what will happen. You know, in this direct, because obviously we have this hot leak that we're just off of, and nobody's been able to say that for sure that it's not true, you know, because a lot of these other
Or
ones
that
would
it
be
is
like,
true.
well,
also.
but that's always been the case. You can't necessarily say for sure that all these leaks are true unless you have like overwhelming evidence.
Everything is unconclusive or inconclusive.
Right. But a lot of these leaks, you can look at and be like, okay, here are the reasons, and everybody's like, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Whereas a lot of the reasons why it might not be aren't definitive. There are a lot of, you know, okay, as I understand this would make less sense, but it's not out of the realm of possibility, you know.
Right.
And the fact that this came in a way that it's not just like a screenshot of a piece of the game, but it's like, oh, this is promotional material.
And we won't discuss the content of that image, just as a reminder.
Right.
Um, but yeah, like this is one of the most believable leaks I think there's ever been. um, it's a tough one, but as soon as like, well, I guess it wouldn't work that way since this is the final direct and we're assuming we'll have characters announced. I'm under the impression we wouldn't see the banner artwork until the direct is over. So, like, even if it's beat for beat the leak, we won't even know if the leak was real until the direct's over.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean,
Like, it could still
even
be
if,
fake and get every prediction right.
right. And even if we get like, if it starts off like, we won't know for sure until we see that artwork, you know, even if it confirms like all of the characters, you know.
I will say that some people who leaked the direct also claimed that the leak in question is fake. I'll just let you kind of sit on that. So
it's
who knows?
but I think largely, like, you know, I think it's okay not to know because we're gonna find out really soon anyway.
Right. I mean, thank God we finally have a release date for a direct or the next piece of information.
Yeah.
Um, it's been a interesting week in the Smash community, to say the least. Yeah. So I think I expect to see a couple Echo Fighters. It'd be cool if we got to see like 3 or 4 Echo Fighters, because I feel like I'm not done with Echo Fighters past Ken and Shadow.
Yeah. There's definitely, you know, the possibility for a lot more. Again, there's still the possibility for DLC. I hope we see that in a way that it's just kind of trickled out with new characters over time, just to keep people coming back to the game and building up that that player base, you know, and really keeping people engaged for a long time. Because that seems to work pretty well, and they keep doing it for these different games because it seems like the games as a service model has a lot of benefits, and I think that they'll do a lot of service type content drops for Smash as well.
For sure. I think DLC. For a while, I wasn't sure if DLC was going to happen, but after the statements this morning about from President Furukawa, that's his name, right?
I believe so. Yeah. I think
After
the only
he
reason
said
I
that
remember that is because of
Clannad.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think his statements in regards to DLC this morning kind of leaned me back in the other direction, saying that Smash will probably have DLC. And if it's like the Wii U 50 Fact Extravaganza, we might even learn who the first DLC character is.
Yeah.
I do have a prediction, though, for how that's actually going to play out.
Okay.
I don't think we will see the first DLC character in the Direct. I think we will see a DLC character announced at the Game Awards.
Yeah.
Which is the date. It is actually the night that Smash releases, is when the Game Awards is.
I would say generally a good rule is to never talk about DLC until the game is actually released.
That didn't stop them for Smash 4.
No, and they've definitely done it for a few games. Obviously, they talked about DLC for Breath of the Wild and for Xenoblade Chronicles 2. But I think it varies by games. The problem is you don't want the perception to be that we are keeping content just to sell it to you at a later date, right?
Sure. I mean, like, they definitely made it sound like Mewtwo was just getting started when they made that announcement. At least that was the way that they delivered it to us, which I think was a smart tactic. I don't think Sakurai is releasing an unfinished game, and if you do
absolutely
think that,
not.
you're
And,
crazy.
Right. Well, and here's what I say. I don't think we're getting cheated. If they announce DLC before the launch, I would not interpret that as them being greedy, right? Because we're already getting so much, you know.
Yeah.
Um,
I I've always said this, but I would have been pleased with buying Smash Ultimate if it only had the content as we knew from E3. Like I was already okay. Like, yep, that's enough for me.
right, you're getting your $60 worth.
Oh yeah,
And they're going to monetize this further, and I just hope that they do it responsibly. And Nintendo's been pretty good about their DLC offerings and being reasonable, though I do think they will get more aggressive, and I think that's also okay because they are definitely a lot more conservative with their DLC offerings, where people don't feel
for sure.
cheated by them, but it's a balance, right? Because you want to.
Remember that the 16 tracks for Mario Kart 8 that we got for like $12 or something? It was like crazy cheap DLC.
Yeah.
And it came with 6 characters and like 6 or 7 new vehicle sets.
Yeah.
Like that's how you do DLC. In fact, I think they undersold that one.
Yeah, it's a reasonable price. You're getting a lot for, you're getting a good value out of it, and then also you still have a good base product that you feel like is a good value. And so people want to feel like they're getting their money's worth without trying just to be like money farms in we want to be viewed as people, and that's what anybody needs to be aware of when they're selling a product is you don't want to treat your consumers as just somebody who is buying your product and that you can make more money off of, right? Even though the goal of business is you want to be able to make more money, right? And be able to do more things. But in that you can lose your humanity, and that's really dangerous. And that's what happens with EA. And I won't even go into that, though they are making some changes that are positive. I think Nintendo starting on the conservative end of the DLC is more telling, and I think they'll loosen up to a point. And I imagine that sometimes they might have some offerings that they'll get a little bit more like, let's try this, and it might tip over a little bit. But again, they're receptive and they're listening. And so they'll take those complaints into consideration and find the best balance between
For sure.
doing good business and then also honoring their consumers.
For one more character that I want to mention, if you haven't been seeing this around, spoiler warning, I'm giving you 5 seconds.
3, 2, 1.
So we had an item that was leaked in the Wendy's Tailgate Tour trailer for Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, and the look is that it appears to be the Sprout icon from Golden Sun. So I think Isaac is all but a lock right now. So I think we will see Isaac. Are you in agreement with that?
I think Isaac seems like a pretty hard lock. Again, it's one of those smaller Nintendo franchises that is beloved by a smaller group of people, but loved greatly. And so I think as we're especially as we've covered most of the bases. Nintendo's only got a few other kind of legacy franchises that are really iconic. That they could be choosing from, and now it's a matter of okay, let's bring these people into the fold, let's make people aware of their existence, and then that sets it up for future games. If we get Isaac, who's to say that we won't get another Golden Sun game in this console?
It's kind of crazy that we've already got 3 Golden Sun games.
I've never played any of them. I would like to play them, but I just haven't gotten around to it. So there are a few other things you could have maybe an Echo Fighter or maybe just his own character in Paper Mario, you know.
Oh, Paper Mario would probably have to be his own character in my mind.
And you could draw from any number of the games, hopefully Super Paper Mario and back. Because
I'd most want to see, obviously, from Thousand Year Door, but I wouldn't be opposed to there being elements from the future games as well.
right. Though not Sticker Star and not Color Splash. Just don't touch those.
I wouldn't be upset. Not entirely upset anyway. Like, if you break it down, Paper Mario's moveset probably wouldn't change that much, even if they pulled from Sticker Star or Color
probably
Splash.
not. But at least emphasizing, like, obviously, he's got
Make
his,
the partners his taunts.
Yeah.
That'll be it.
Give him the hammer. We like the hammer.
Put up the little action command, doot, 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 and extra damage if you land it.
Right. So I don't know, man. There's so many possibilities
We could speculate on characters for years, honestly.
And we have. There's other streams where we just go on too long for talking about characters.
That's why I kind of wanted to put a focus on everything else, which I think is arguably more interesting at this point. And I also don't want to speculate on characters too heavily right now because we're 2 days away from the Direct, and setting expectations is a really important thing here. One of my comments on the leak is that whether it's real or fake, it's going to have a heavy effect on the reception to whatever Sakurai shows us on Thursday. Like, if you're in the Twitch chat or the YouTube chat while it's going on, people are just going to be talking about the leak during the whole thing.
We're going to be talking about all those possibilities. And
as soon as it's deconfirmed or confirmed, there's going to be a riot on whatever chat you're on. I guarantee it.
Yeah.
And that's sad because we should be celebrating, not yelling at each other.
Yeah. So I feel like, and I don't know how much, they had to prepare. So let's assume for a second the leak is fake. I feel like the first character they showed would have to be not one of the characters in the leak. You know what I mean?
That'd have to be pretty heavily premeditated by this point,
right?
I think,
because we don't know how long ago they produced the Direct, and they finished up editing it, and now it's just kind of waiting to be posted. Yeah, it's just it's a matter of like when, like, I don't know. And then if it is true, like, and we get all of the reveals that we are anticipating if we believed the leak, then I don't know, that'll probably have a negative effect in the sense of like, oh, we saw it coming. And I don't
might take the wind out of the sails a little bit.
Right. So
yeah, there's a negative effect in that case. If we only get X amount of characters compared to X amount of characters from the leak, that would also have a negative effect on the community. Regardless, this leak has done damage.
Yeah. It's just, that's kind of why I hope it's not true. Just because, like, I don't know, I like being wrong. I like having my expectations subverted, and I like being able to be excited about these kind of things because I was previously ignorant of information. Now, even with the leak and say that it is true, there is still going to be a lot in this Direct that we don't know about. That
40 minutes long.
That the leak did not touch on.
Yeah, I mean, look at... Simon got leaked the night before the last Smash Direct, and I was so disappointed because I got spoiled by going through my Twitter feed before I knew it was out there.
Yeah.
Only to then find out that was one of 5 other characters that was going to be, or 4 other characters that was going to be in the Direct, as well as showing us things like Squad Strike and Smashdown and Stage Morph, and I was blown away. So,
right.
Like, I feel like those kinds of things are going to keep me excited.
Yeah. I think there will be enough. I think I'll come out of this Direct being just that much more excited for this game to come out.
And then after the show, they're going to do some Treehouse Live, which I assume they'll just demonstrate some of the things that they talk about. I don't think Sakurai wants to take too long demonstrating reveals during the direct itself. So tying this together with the Treehouse Live, it's a really good idea.
Yeah, which makes me curious and suspicious that we're probably gonna get like all like if we're already gonna get a lot of information, but we're gonna get that much more information just because you don't have to clutter up the direct with certain specifics that can be explored later on.
Definitely. It'll also be nice just to have an opportunity to kind of soak some of that stuff up afterwards when watching the Treehouse. So that'll just be a nice opportunity. And I guess my last thing is I'm gonna go out on a limb and say that there will be a global Smash test announced, maybe for the weekend following this one.
I hope so. I
I've been fortunate enough to play Ultimate already, but I know a bunch of you guys out there want to try it out, even though we're so close to launch at this point. But you know, they need to make sure that online is strong, even if they only give us like 3 or 4 characters to choose from.
Yeah. Yeah, and like this will be the moment because like they'll have already revealed anything, so there's not really any data mining to do for the demo or anything like that.
Right, it's all been leading up to this, just revealing
Right.
everything, so that's not a risk anymore.
Yeah. So give us yeah, I am so down for a global Smash test.
Yeah, so I think that will be announced maybe towards the end of the direct or during like the online portion. If the online is just its own block, I mean, who knows?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's all that I have.
Yeah, I don't really have anything else to say. I mean, we've kind of been through it all. I mean, characters were kind of the thing that we saved for last, and we
And even
have our
then, we didn't want to get
prediction.
into it too much.
Yeah, but even then, like we've kind of run out of ideas. You know,
Anything
like
beyond this would be a surprise.
yes. So
And that's not to say that talking about some of the things we mentioned wouldn't be surprising anyway.
yeah,
I guarantee you, Spirits is going to be a very, very cool thing, even if we nailed it. Like, it's still going to surprise us.
yeah, because even if we nailed like the format, the actual content within that format, it's still very much a mystery.
Oh, for sure. Real quick, we will be live streaming the direct, doing a live reaction to that. So if you want to come check out the direct with us, that would be great. Well, specifically with Logan.
Yeah, because I'm the only one available.
I will be at work, unfortunately. Paul will also be at work. Paul wasn't even able to make it tonight. So be on the lookout for Logan's live reaction to the Super Smash Bros. Final Direct on Thursday morning. The VOD will then stay up after the fact, so you can still watch it back after you see the Direct, if that's how you choose to do it. But we'd love to have you. And for everyone who's new here, if you subscribe because of the 50 Fact Extravaganza, thank you for sticking around. It's been great to have all the new support and all the new viewers. We're glad that you are enjoying everything else that we do here. With that in mind, we do the Nintendo Stuff podcast every Friday night at 7:30 p.m. Central. We have these discussions all the time about Nintendo news, so make sure to run it back. We always do it live. And that's on top of all the other videos that we'll be sprinkling around. So if you haven't subscribed, please join us and get in the know with the Break Room Arcade. Join the Discord server, all those links in the description. If you want to keep up the discussion with us, I'm in there very frequently, almost 24/7. The only time I'm not in there is when I'm sleeping. So if you want to chat, hit us up. We'll be in there.
Yeah, please join our Discord. I love Discord, and I love the kind of community that it can create, and we would love to have any and all of you join in the discussion there.
And if you want, please follow me at Babababs on Twitter. Follow Logan at Loggy Doves. And you can follow us as a collective at Breakroom Arcade to find out everything that we're up to. Hashtag self-promo. Well, it is our show. So with all of that, thank you guys so much for checking us out. It's been a blast. And we will see you on Thursday. Make sure to check Logan Live. We'll have a discussion that evening about all the news that we caught in the Super Smash Bros. Ultimate Direct. I'm very excited. Logan, I imagine you are as well.
Yeah. I'm so hyped for
Everything's
for all
coming
of
to a
this.
head. We're finally getting to the top of that mountain, right? So with all that in mind, guys, don't break your backs, break in the games. But for now, break time's over.